All right, guys, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I love going out to eat, but I hate choosing where to go. Luckily, Portland is home to some of the best restaurants in the country, and there are a ton of great resources on where to find them, but where you live is certainly going to affect how easily you can access some of these different hubs where these really great restaurants exist. Portland is incredibly prolific when it comes to our food culture, something you've probably heard if you are thinking about moving to Portland or if you visited the area in the past. So in this video, we're going to talk about geographically where you can find some of these best restaurants, and all that starts now. Hey, what's up everybody? This is Paul Clem with the Home Team Brokers coming to you from Portland, Oregon. And in this video, we're going to talk about where you find the best restaurants in Portland. So a ton of people moving to the Portland area aren't necessarily looking to be in the city. And yes, the highest volume of these top-rated restaurants in Portland do exist within Portland city limits. Not all of them, and we'll talk more about that in this video, but if you are way out west in Hillsborough, if you're way out east in Gresham, Happy Valley, down south in Tualatin or Sherwood, or anywhere, on the outskirts of the metro area that isn't as accessible to the city, you're still going to probably get into Portland from time to time to get out to restaurants, other entertainment, whatever it may be. So in this video, we're going to talk about where these really great restaurants are in Portland. Now, it's been a really busy week, so unfortunately I wasn't able to get out and film a neighborhood or a suburb, which, I really like to get out and tour these different areas in person to show you guys what it looks like. And you talk a little bit about what it might be like living in these particular areas. But I sat down last night and I talked to my wife. I said, if you were moving to Portland or if you were moving to a new city, what are some of the things that you would want to know in deciding where to live, or at least to envision, where you're going to be getting out to from time to time? And she said, number one on the list was restaurants and food. Where are we going to go out? Where are we going to, do a date night or go out to lunch with the kids, whatever it may be. And so here we are. We're going to talk about Portland, not just how prolific the restaurant and food culture is in Portland, but again, where you're actually going to be able to get out and access some of these great restaurants. Now, if this is your first time to the channel or you've been here and you haven't already and you want to get more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. And we've helped so many people relocate to Portland and move to the Portland metro area. As real estate professionals, we love to help with that process. So if that's you, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or click the link down below in the description of the video, schedule a Zoom call with us, and we can talk about some of these areas more in depth. Today is all about restaurants, so let's check out the map in 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, here is Portland, Oregon, and we've talked a lot about the makeup of Portland and the metro area, with the Willamette River running right down the middle, and you have the west side and the east side. And if you look at Portland city limits, you have most of Portland actually being on the east side of the river. You have downtown here on the west side. You have Forest Park and the West Hills, and then you have Southwest Portland kind of down here on an island. We're going to look at the best restaurants in Portland, not necessarily what the best restaurants are, but where they are geographically and how accessible they may be to you depending on where you end up living. A lot of people move to Portland, move to the Portland area, they end up moving to Beaverton, maybe all the way out in Hillsborough, out here, maybe down south, West Lynn, Lake Oswego, all the way down to, Tualatin, Wilsonville, Sherwood. You could be further east out here in Happy Valley or Gresham, for example. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be able to get into the city and get to some of the best restaurants that Portland has. Now, we did a video last year on Portland being rated the top foodie city in the country. That was from one media outlet, but you'll always see Portland on these lists in the top 10 of the best food cities in the country. So, for example, pulling up Food and Wine, that seems like a pretty good resource. You got New York, okay, New Orleans, big tourist destination, not a huge city. San Francisco, of course, LA, sure. Number 5, Portland, Oregon. So obviously we're punching above our weight in regards to having really, really great restaurants, and in particular on a per capita basis, right? So, Portland is the 26th most populated city in the country, and somewhere around the 23rd, 24th most populated metro area in the country. So, kind of middle of the pack, more or less, but being fifth, only behind LA, San Francisco, New York. That's pretty impressive. So, this is certainly not understated. And I think anybody moving to a new city, just like my wife said, right, they're going to want to know, okay, what are the restaurants like? Where are we going to go out to eat? What is that going to be like? Because that's a big part of what people like to do for entertainment. And so if you're moving to Portland, you're going to be a little bit spoiled. I think, again, that question is going to come up regardless. But if you're moving to Portland, okay, we've got this incredible food culture. Where is it? How easy and attainable is it to get to these restaurants? And what do the prices look like, too? That's something we're going to talk about. So there's some great resources online. Like I alluded to, I hate choosing where to go out to eat. It's a daunting task. You can spend hours looking at some of these lists that label the best new restaurants, the best Mexican restaurants, the best Italian restaurants, best restaurants overall in Portland. And so that's probably something that you'll be engaging in as well, but where do you start, right? So I have this map that I will link to in the description of this video, 101 best restaurants in Portland. And looking through them, there's probably some missing. This might be a little outdated. There's new restaurants, there's restaurants that closed down. But if you look at this map, and just looking at some of these names, these are definitely some of the highest regarded restaurants in Portland. Now, if you look at where they are geographically, not a huge surprise that they're in Portland. They're not necessarily out in the suburbs. That's not to say that there's not great restaurants in the suburbs, but you might have, say, a downtown Lake Oswego that has a few restaurants, and a couple of them are incredible and top-notch. You have like downtown Beaverton. Again, you got quite a few restaurants and bars and breweries, and it's a great little area, but there's only a couple restaurants on this list. You look at Portland, and the map is absolutely peppered with the top restaurants in Portland. So let's dig into this a little more, and I want to use this to talk about some of the entertainment districts too that you would be getting to if you went out in Portland, whether you lived right in Portland or not. Now, these entertainment districts are not only home to some of the best restaurants in Portland, but also, there's the nightlife, there's bars, cocktail bars, there's coffee shops, there's boutiques, there's all kinds of things to get out and do, during the day. These are definitely areas where people get out and walk around and spend an afternoon, and not surprisingly, these are the areas where, in general, the top restaurants in Portland are. So I think something that would be a little bit of a surprise to people is the distribution when it comes to being on the west side of Portland versus the east side of Portland. Downtown you would think of as an area where people like to get out and eat, and no surprise, there are a lot of great top-rated restaurants on the west side in downtown Portland and northwest Portland, Pearl District, Northwest District. This is all going to be an area that people would refer to as downtown, but really downtown is this southwest side of the city. And then up here you have Pearl District and Northwest Portland, which is a little more of a neighborhood feel. Now you see all these fork and knife icons and martini glass icons. A ton, countless restaurants, bars, places to go, things to do, which, by and large, it's hard to go wrong. Even if something is not necessarily top rated, there are so many options for where to get out and eat. But when you look at these blue dots, which is where somebody has listed the top restaurants in Portland, a ton in Northwest Pearl District, downtown Portland. And these aren't necessarily going to be more buttoned up. I think one thing about Portland is, such a high volume of these really top-rated restaurants aren't fancy, dimly lit, dining areas, steakhouses, things like that, where you have to dress up. Most of these really great restaurants are pretty casual in terms of the environment and the setting and everything. A lot of them are just holes in the wall. There's a lot of pizza places, for example, so it's not like the best restaurants in Portland. In fact, most of the best restaurants in Portland are not nice, fancy restaurants. And when you look at prices, it's going to be a little bit of a different story. I think a lot of these places are very attainable. You could probably expect to spend, $80 to $100 for 2 people, with an entree and maybe a couple of drinks, an appetizer, that sort of thing. But many of these you could easily spend $150 to $200, when you look at adding on the tip. And then there's going to be places where, you can't get out of there for less than $100 a person, then you spend the tip, then you get some drinks. So there really is a pretty big distribution there. But again, many restaurants in Portland are not going to be crazy expensive. So looking at this map a little further, again, the downtown area, no surprise there. But in southeast and northeast Portland, you have these entertainment districts. You have these streets where you have a ton of commercial development, primarily restaurants, bars, coffee shops, things like that. So if we go back to our primary map here, looking at Portland, we talked about downtown, Old Town a little bit. This is Chinatown. It's got a little bit of a seedier area. This is the Pearl District in here. And then Northwest 23rd, Northwest District, Nob Hill, 23rd and 21st is where you have a ton of restaurants and bars and everything. Then on the east side, you're looking at really starting with Division. There are some other areas like Selwood, Moreland, Woodstock, but a lot of people are going to be getting into southeast Portland and going to Division Street. So you can see, this is really residential, really dense. So these are homes in here, old Portland bungalows, craftsman bungalows, that kind of thing. Then you have Division Street. You can see all these buildings. Those are just all restaurants, bars, things like that. You have Hawthorne, another really cool area. Belmont and Morrison down in here, and then Belmont extends up really to about Cesar Chavez, which is 39th. Tons of great restaurants, bars, shops, things like that in here. Southeast Stark, a little bit to some extent. You have Burnside. A lot of great restaurants on Burnside. And you just kind of go up the line here. Even in Sandy and the Hollywood district here, there's a lot going on. Still in southeast Portland, you have this kind of inner east industrial area where you have Grand and MLK running north-south here. And then down here, like along Water Avenue, in this area, you see a lot of great restaurants popping up in here, breweries, things like that. This area in here, really has the potential to be the next Pearl District. So the Pearl District here, 30, 40 years ago, was just industrial, a lot of loading docks, things like that. And that is a lot of what you get here on this kind of central east side industrial district. But it's starting to turn over a little bit, like the Pearl District, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But it's not limited to southeast Portland. You get into northeast Portland and you have Alameda along Fremont here. You have, of course, Alberta. You have North Williams and Vancouver. So this stretch through here, great little entertainment district. You have Mississippi, one of the coolest neighborhoods for sure in Portland. A little bit older, kind of like Hawthorne. And over into St. John's too, which is a little more tucked away and removed up here in North Portland, this little downtown St. John's area. This St. John's was its own city or community before it was annexed by Portland. So it has its own, historic charm, an older area, an older community that, again, eventually was annexed by Portland. But this little downtown area, a lot of great restaurants and shops and things like that in here too. So if we look at this map, you'll see it kind of follow that trend. Division, Hawthorne, Belmont, Stark, Burnside, up here Alameda, or rather on Fremont, Alberta, North Williams, North Mississippi, and then up here into St. John's, which there's actually none up here, but there are a ton of restaurants and places to eat up here as well. Okay, so how do you go about finding what these restaurants are? How do you go about finding different categories and deciding where to actually eat out? Well, there's two primary resources that I always go to. There's Eater, PDX, and there's Portland Monthly. So these outlets, these websites always have really, really great lists on the top new restaurants, the top restaurants of the year, top restaurants by category. So you can see, for example, this list for Portland Monthly, top 50 Portland restaurants. You could spend years and years and years trying to get to all of these restaurants that are listed, but this is a really good guide on when you get to Portland, okay, finding out where you're actually going to get out and eat from time to time. You know, in this particular list, and you'll see this pretty consistently throughout when you look at lists like this, is actually separating places by geographical area. So in North Portland, it'll be Southeast Portland, Southwest Portland, and just down the line. And you can get a little bit of a description, you can get a little bit of a feel for what they offer, you go to the website, get a feel for pricing. EATER, again, is another publication that has a ton of great lists, and you'll find a lot of consistency between the two, but again, really endless resources when it comes to finding out where to actually get out and eat. So, you know, this particular list, the 38 essential restaurants and food carts in Portland, and I should mention too, like we've talked about in other videos, the food cart culture in Portland is incredible. Food cart pods are everywhere. It's something that, of course, definitely is more geared towards some of the warmer months, so spring, summer, into the fall a little bit, you know, where you have basically outdoor dining and then several different food carts to choose from. But some of the best restaurants in Portland started as food carts. That is a trajectory and kind of a path that you see very common for a really great food cart to open a brick and mortar and, you know, ultimately, you know, end up on one of these lists, top 50, top 38, whatever it may be. You look at the map here, look at the distribution here, really pretty similar to the other map that we were looking at. So again, there are a ton of great resources on where to find the best restaurants. You're going to find that most of them really do exist close into the city, whether it be on the east side or the west side of the river. But if you are living in Beaverton, I mean, you can get out to these restaurants in 15, maybe 25 minutes, depending on where you're going. If you're living in, Tualatin, Tigard, I mean, you can still get up I-5 pretty quickly. Obviously, Lake Oswego, very close to Portland. If you're living out in Hillsborough, if you're living a little further out in Gresham, Happy Valley, you know, out in this area, or a little further down south, Oregon City, Wilsonville, Sherwood, it's going to be a little bit tougher to get out to these areas. And so if not just getting out to eat, but, you know, really diving into the culinary culture in Portland is something that you really envision yourself doing, and something that you would get excited about, living further out from Portland makes it a little less accessible, although it's still something that, you know, even if there's a 30-40 minute drive, is definitely going to be worth it. And if you are thinking about moving to Portland, if you want to talk more about some great Portland restaurants, maybe some of my favorites, if you want to talk about what different neighborhoods are like or what different suburbs are like, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, click the link down below in the description of the video, schedule a Zoom call with us, and we can talk more about your budget, your timeline, you know, what the buying process is going to be like, in particular, relocating from out of state. Now, if this video is helpful, make sure to hit the like button. That helps us out a lot. If you want to get more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. As always, we really appreciate you watching. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.